Yeah, I love to talk about the brain with inflammation because you don't hear about it enough. But when the brain is inflamed, and that can happen quickly, like in that perfume aisle or new mold exposure, then the communication with the gut is not good, and you can get that nausea right away.
Hey there, welcome to the Evolving Ageless podcast. This is the enlightened woman's antidote to aging. That's what we're doing here. We are reversing the aging process. And so I am your host, Michelle Dreilich, and I am on a mission to change the way women age. Because age doesn't happen to you, you actually have control over the way you age. And so each week I'm joined by different experts in their field that share the latest and greatest research and their findings and what's working for them and their patients and their clients. And again, we just want to make small changes and have big impact over the way we age. So, have you ever walked through a department store, through the perfume aisle, and not only felt overwhelmed, but maybe felt nauseous or gagging or really sick? So my next guest, Bridget Danner, is going to talk to us about that today because it actually has a name. It's called multiple chemical sensitivity. And it actually might shock you, but it's not normal. It's a sign that something's going on. And Bridget, who's with us right now, is an expert in the area of detoxification, and multiple chemical sensitivities is one of those signs that maybe that's something that might be important for you. So welcome to Evolving Ageless, Bridget. It's so good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love this topic. I'm 45 and like thinking more about age and thinking about how I'm gonna just rock it. So I think it's okay to say that. I think it's okay to like do that, like give ourselves permission to still be like beautiful and energetic and all the things as we get older.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir. That's exactly it. In fact, I've got a secret that I will share. Uh, I am turning 52 this week, so this is a
Oh,
big
happy
one for
birthday.
me. A big one. They're all big after the big one.
Yeah, I'm turning 46 in about a month, and I'm like, oh, that's
Oh,
closer to 50
it just
than
gets
40.
better and better. Just gets better and better. And so the really cool thing is Bridget is a licensed acupuncturist since 2004. So she's been at this for a while, but she's also a certified diagnostic nutrition practitioner since 2015 and ran a extremely busy integrative medical clinic where she's actually helped over 12,000 men and women in pursuit of optimal health, right? And her story starts with mold. It may not resonate with everyone, that may not be everyone's story. But I think what we'll talk about today is just the concept of detoxification. Like I talked about, multiple chemical sensitivities. It starts with things like perfume, but we'll also talk about hormone detoxification, right? I'm not sure if everyone has caught those conversations on Evolving Angels before, but our hormones are so important. But as they leave our bodies, the fact that they leave is important, but the way they leave is really important. Because if they leave in a kind of dirty, messy way, we know that they have an impact and an opportunity to cause cancer and other diseases like that. So, all right, Bridget, let's dig in. Tell us for you kind of where it started. I know you've got kind of a mold story, but this is how your whole world about detoxification kind of opened up.
Yeah, and I'll go back even further in time because I think it's kind of interesting how things, connect. So the whole reason I got into natural medicine is because I was an environmentalist from a young age. I was always really concerned. When I was a kid, like the hole in the ozone layer was a big deal, and I was very
Yep.
concerned about it. And I was just always very concerned about these topics. So when I finished college and was like thinking about my next phase in life, I really wanted to do something I felt would be impactful for the environment. So after reviewing different options, I was sort of already getting into natural living. And I thought, well, if I have a natural medicine clinic, I can also teach about, living a low toxic life and all that. And then I went to school and I started my clinic, and you kind of things kind of changed. I was living in Portland, Oregon. They were already pretty knowledgeable about, avoiding toxins and stuff. But I'm trying to think, maybe only I don't know, 4 years or less into my career, I started to have more chronic symptoms, like fatigue, a lot of viruses. And it really went on for a long time until I found out we had toxic mold in our home. Basically, kind of found out from things getting a lot worse, just using all the things, nutrition, detox, good sleep, all the things. I was exhausted. I couldn't recover. Prior to that, I had a lot of chronic pain, a lot of insomnia, a lot of hormone problems we can talk about. So then I found out I had my own environmental illness with toxic mold. And then I really had to focus on detox for my own health. So I had this whole body of knowledge on nutrition and that kind of thing. But detox is kind of its own animal. So I had to learn that, and ended up selling that practice, moving to Arizona because it's drier and just for a healthier climate for me. And as I kind of had this chance to evolve my own medical practice, I really was I want to focus on detoxing, get back into teaching non-toxic living. So sort of a happy ending, and I think it's kind of what I've been supposed to be doing all along. It was, sucked to go through a pretty severe environmental illness. But I learned a lot, and I feel there is space in the marketplace, so to speak, to learn more about detox, because I think it's still an element of health that isn't understood well and isn't discussed enough.
I agree with that. And in fact, I think very often this idea of detoxification is viewed as kind of woo, right? Because it's gotten kind of mixed up in a crowd of maybe supplements or some other kind of natural healing zone, where sometimes it gets turned into a little less physical biochemical processes and more into some other ideas, or colon cleanses. People feel like if they ingest things to make them go to the bathroom more frequently and eliminate waste, that's a detox. And while that's a form of detoxification, I think what you and I are talking about really is, our livers, our kidneys, our bodies are designed, our sweat glands, we have multiple ways for garbage or toxins to leave our body. And I've said this before, when we think about toxins, caffeine is a toxin, alcohol is a toxin, right? It's not just glyphosate on our food. It's everything we ingest has the opportunity to, aspirin is a toxin. Medications you're on are toxins. Your body has to metabolize them and clean them out of your body. And so these are real, physicians learn this process in medical school. It's just not heavily discussed after that.
A little bit. I think they learn it in the frame of side
alcohol
effects
poisoning.
And they don't learn. It's funny you say that it's kind of woo, because when I first started to get interviewed about this, I was surprised that people wanted to ask me, is detox needed, or is detox a fad, or all these, and I was like, what? But I was like, okay, this is good to know. Now we have to take a step back. Or people think about detox as serious drug detox or whatever.
Right. Or detox. Should I do it? How many times a year should I do it? It's you're doing it every minute of every day.
Exactly. That is more what I advocate for. Although I do like seasonal detoxes. We can talk about why.
More focused and concentrated.
Yeah, exactly. As a nutritionist, it just gets you to clean up your act in a focused way, which I like. But really, we're detoxing every day. The amount of things we're exposed to is so much higher than our ancestors ever were exposed to. Plus now we have stress and EMF and blue light and other factors that are stressful to our body. So there's that load. And then there's like, are we really getting enough nutrition and different like ingredients, so to speak, to support our detox organs? And food quality is not what it used to be. You know, even when you're trying to eat well, you're still usually like depleted in B vitamins and magnesium. You're not eating enough fish. Like, it's just hard. So you have to think about, even if you don't want to go crazy with a lot of like different detox concepts, at least think about getting the nutrients your body needs to do its job.
Yep, totally agreed. And I like how you put that into two different classifications, because there are things you ingest that need to be detoxed. And then there are things around us, like blue light. We know that blue light has a significant impact even on the biochemistry of our brain, you know? And so both of those, there's a place for both of those. So where do we start? Let's talk about what people should be looking for as signs. We talked about multiple chemical sensitivity with the perfume. I think it's a great example, because I've worked with patients before, and in the conversation where they say, oh yes, perfume, any smells make me so sick. And they just think that that's normal.
Yeah, that's something we could start the conversation with. So that's kind of a sign of that load being overwhelming for the body. And when the body encounters a new kind of concentration of a foreign thing, fragrance is actually a pretty complex group of toxins altogether.
Yes, right.
So the body's like smelling that. And yeah, if you're in the perfume aisle or the cleaning aisle, it's just a lot of it at once.
The cleaning aisle, bleach, you know, if you walk into a room that's been cleaned with you can tell with bleach,
like a restaurant. I'm like,
yes.
Yeah. Hey, there's some places I go for like smoothies and they reek of like cleaning chemicals. So I just stopped going. It's like the body's immune system is launching a response, an inflammatory response to what it sees as a threat. That's why you're getting a headache or you're getting nauseous or whatever. So there's a same kind of two components. It's like, yes, there's a concentrated external source, which isn't great for you. It is a toxin. And your body is kind of, I don't know, overreacting by creating like this headache and this strong response, similar to like what we do with allergies, right? Like, yes, there's pollen in the air. Do we need to like get completely inflamed and stuff up our nose? No, that's like an overreaction to something. So it's a complex topic, but like desensitizing the body from all that response. And that can get actually magnified in your 40s and 50s, because your hormones are changing and estrogen dominance will tend to create like more of a histamine response to things. So that's another like thing you gotta be aware of and sort of work against at this age. It's one I'm still working on because I'm pretty recovered, but I developed some like seasonal asthma from my mold exposure. So I still need to like work on balancing out my own immune response to things.
So what kinds of, so we've talked about signs from smells or exposure. What kinds of symptoms what should we be looking for? Because, you know, like you said, fatigue, and it's not just your run-of-the-mill fatigue. This is your like, I'm having a hard time getting out of bed kind of fatigue, right?
Yeah, I think some of the run-of-the-mill can be like a lower level of toxic burden, because we kind of all have that. And look at us, we're all like addicted to Starbucks and stuff. But when it becomes like just bone-crushing exhaustion, then you're probably really dealing with some toxins. And that was very true in my case, so I feel like I can say that. So fatigue, brain fog, to me, those like top two. And then the rest are kind of a smattering. So low libido, hormonal dysregulation, gut health issues can very much be related. I
think headaches are really common too.
Headaches, chronic pain, skin issues because you're pushing toxins through your skin, behavioral issues, mood issues, neurological
constipation, I think, is another one. And I think it compounds the problem, but also it's often involved.
Yeah, I love to talk about the brain with inflammation because you don't hear about it enough. But when the brain is inflamed, and that can happen quickly, like in that perfume aisle or a new mold exposure, then the communication with the gut is not good. And you can get that nausea right away. That's just
Yep.
like kind of like a backup of normal motility in a sense. Or you can get, lose stool or any number. So it can happen quickly, and it can also just be chronic if your brain is chronically inflamed. So the, I guess, tricky part on the surface is like there's so many symptoms that could be involved. So I think everybody's exposed to toxins, and we can all benefit from some detox for just kind of, day-to-day things. Oh, I didn't mention weight, inability to lose weight can be in there.
Yes, that's a big one, actually. That, and especially it jams hormones, right? The whole
Yeah.
hormone system. And so think of detox. I like this one. Do you remember the I Love Lucy episode? We're making chocolate, right? I love that for people to get the idea. Like your liver and your kidneys, it's just a process. And what comes in has to be processed and taken out. And so at some point when we say detoxification, it's when that factory starts kicking up and your body's trying as fast as it can. But guess what? Your liver has like 7 other jobs it needs to do. It can't just focus on toxins, right? So it tries to prioritize things, and then it finds itself struggling to perform its regular tasks, right? And that's when we call it a burden of toxins, right? They build up, especially because toxins tend to be fat soluble. And so for people that have a moderate amount of body fat, your toxins are storing themselves in fat. So as people lose, like when people do massive diets, that's a good example, very often they get these weird symptoms as a result of it, but it's because you're also losing fat, right? But you're losing toxins out of your fat cells, and you're overburdening your body with this problem. So now I think we've got a really good sense of, our environment, the soil is depleted, there's stuff on our food. What do we do to fix that? Let's talk about the process of detoxification. There's mild, right, all the way up to like really intense.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on something you said about toxins coming out when you're losing weight, because I think that there could be something you can do there. Maybe a new concept to people, but adding in some binders. So binders are a class of supplements that physically or chemically bind up toxins on the way out so they don't circulate back in. So I had never used these, know anything about them, but there's a whole big class of them. We sell one that's like a mix, but there's charcoal, there's fulvic and humic acid, there's pectin, which comes from citrus fruits. There's different the clay. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of types of binders you can use. Occasionally they can be a little constipating, so that's something to keep in mind. And occasionally they can make people feel a little worse, because even though they're binding something, it's not like it's like in a capsule or anything. So it's still getting pulled through the system. I have never had a negative reaction in my own body. I would say that's pretty rare, like 5% of the time, but just something to be aware of. Constipating, maybe could be up to 20% of the time, perhaps. So just some things to know. But that's just something.
And usually a sign that you just need to slow down. It doesn't mean you need to stop. It just means you need to back off. So if let's say you're taking so many binders, you would take half of that and back up and then try to go forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a client the other day. It was the first time I heard it. She's worked up to 1 capsule a day, but gets loose stool like 3 times in the morning. And I'm like, then it's still too much. You don't have loose stool 3 times. So in her case, I think as it pulls through the system, the body's like, let's get rid of this. So it makes it go loose. But binders is something you can start to learn about as a way to, especially if you're doing like a big weight loss plan, just can kind of keep those symptoms down, potentially getting headaches and things like as you lose weight. So that's one.
What I like about binders is that they don't initiate any detoxification. Like they're not upregulating any system. Like, because people that tend to feel like if you start upregulating somebody's, making their body detoxify faster, they could feel sicker. But with binders, very often we call it catch and feel better. It's just kind of catching the garbage and taking it out. And so as long as I'm just going to say it, as long as you're pooping and things are moving through, then very often it's just cleaning, it's just going through and binding, catching them and leaving your body. So that's an ideal situation. And that's why I love what you're suggesting. It's a great way to start, because you're not forcing detoxification. You're just passively assisting it.
Yeah, I call them the garbage man, very similar analogy. And mostly you don't really notice the garbage man. They just kind of come and go, and but it keeps things clean. Occasionally, you feel really better from it. Some people really feel better, but mostly they're just there to do a job, and you just know they're helping move toxins out.
It's great.
And we'll assume they already know how to have a great diet from listening to you and learning from you. So just whole foods, lots of colors of the rainbow, high quality foods that are sourced well. And then I do like doing lemon waters and simple green drinks. The one that you'll share later to the group, it has just some greens, some cilantro, lemon, a little bit of honey. So it's just a clean way to kind of alkalize in the morning. And that's something that helped me a lot. Greens can be very detoxifying. The color of chlorophyll, and it's in a lot of things, is detoxifying. And if you're just doing a little bit, it's gentle. Sometimes people email in and they're like, am I going to feel crazy from taking this? No, the odds are really, really low you're going to feel any bad effect. But it's just
look what's sitting right here on my desk.
Little greens powder?
I don't know if you can see it. Algae.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Whenever I drink water, I just take a couple of algae tablets with it, just because it's a little extra detoxification.
Yeah, I'll go through stages, and I very much went through a stage with chlorella for a long time, and it felt really good. It's like a blood builder. It's a detoxifier. You can tend to get a lot of energy from it. So you can put a powder in your smoothie, or you can just take a tablet or something. There's lots of ways to do it. It's fairly affordable. So that's one more kind of simple detox option. Let's see. I do really like fish oil. I know it sounds boring, but it's actually very anti-inflammatory for the brain and the gut. So it can really help that communication to get rid of some symptoms. And you talked about hormones can get kind of jammed up, and a lot of that's at the cellular wall. There's inflammation, their receptors are being blocked. There's maybe heavy metals and stuff blocking things on there, chemicals. So keeping that cell membrane really healthy is an important idea. So fish oil, and also something people may not have heard of, which is phosphatidylcholine. It's like a fatty compound. That one was the one that helped my brain fog the most. So if that's what you really struggle with, we sell one. It's actually our most expensive product in the shop because it's just expensive. It's like a liposomal version of it.
Yeah.
If your brain is not working, some people can't go to work, or feel like they're going to lose their job. You got to get your brain working again. So it's just one or two a day, and it's not like a forever thing. There's a point where you're sickest and you need the most support. And then as time goes by, you're doing more maintenance you're still taking algae, not because you're sick, but because you want to feel well. So
I've always told people your sweat glands are part of your detoxification pathways, right? Getting sweat, things leave your body through your sweat glands.
Yes.
So exercise is one of those things.
Yeah, exercise is great. It also does some cellular kind of cleanup. It stimulates that when you do. And if you do kind of more of a focused short workout, I don't think it has to be at CrossFit or anything.
No.
You can just, I have a little, since COVID, I just have a little equipment, a jump rope. I have a mini trampoline, which is actually great for lymph and detox. I've got a couple weights. I don't have a lot of stuff, but if I spend, 20, 30 minutes in there, I still get a good, pretty focused workout where I'm building my muscles, which is important, as you teach about. And it's great for circulation, oxygenation of your cells. So getting movement is great. I'm also a big fan of sauna. My clients are required to do it if they're detoxing from mold. So that
Yep.
can just be going to your gym, which you might not be able to do right now. You can, the price point, I really don't care as long as you're doing it. Some people say, oh, you have to use like this fancy infrared sauna. Now I own an infrared sauna, but I didn't start there. I got used to it. I saw the benefit. So whatever you want to do to get, so there's sauna blankets. One of my clients has it. And you're not only sweating, but you're also detoxing from the inside. There's a lot happening inside. So even if you don't mount a huge sweat, you're peeing out toxins, you're healing cells. So that there's different options there. But I'm a big fan of sauna. An easy one for aging and detox is using a dry brush. So it's really good for your skin. Yeah, it costs very little money. I actually did it this morning. It's energizing and it moves lymph, so it's detoxifying. It's good for cellulite. It's good for just skin appearance.
So what do you do with it? Is it a special brush, or is it usually just a bristly brush?
Yeah, I wish I had one here. So it's usually like a wooden handle and then a natural bristles from like boars or something. You keep it dry and you just stroke it towards your heart, so not back and forth. And you don't need like a lot of strokes, but you want to try to cover like your whole body and towards your heart. So the whole thing only takes like a few minutes. And I had known about it, but I never used to do it consistently until I was sick. And I really would notice it's just like a little pick me up in the morning. And plus it's detoxifying.
I would imagine neurologically, it just kind of connects your body, like your whole body.
I think you're absolutely right. I never thought about that. There's something about it where I'm just like, ding, after I do it. Like
it's like your brain is like taking inventory. Like, yes, all of that is connected.
I love that. I think that's so true. I want to kind of look that up now. Yeah, I it only takes a few minutes, but when I actually bother to do it, I just feel more alert, which is probably what you're describing. My brain is like, okay, we're all here. Let's start this day.
Right. Well, and we use dry brushing, right, in a lot of like kids with sensory processing stuff, right? So we know that it works in a neurological way because it's physical stimulation, but it's everywhere. So I bet that plays an important part, to kind of to really take inventory. I love it.
Yeah, we lucked out, and I actually met at Mindshare, a company that manufactures a kit here in the US. It has a softer brush to start out with, because at first it might feel like a lot. And then weird. And then it has a mini brush, so you can do, like your ears, your face. And that's nice for, I think, also the brain stimulation and for anti-aging.
That's great. So how do you know if you're going too fast? How about, let's talk about that. And the nice thing is when you're detoxifying the way you're talking about, I haven't heard you say anything about, because there are a lot of herbs that really get things moving. And there's a lot of vitamins and minerals that really get things moving. So what's nice about the way Bridget's describing detoxification is that all of these ideas that she's just given us are very like natural, so that your body doesn't get overloaded trying to do it, right? So that's the best way to do it, is just on an ongoing, just like Evolving Ageless, right? Small changes that have a larger impact as you go forward.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that either, but yeah, you mostly don't have to push hard to detox, and you often don't want to, because my clientele, they have a big toxic load. So they don't want to. So basically, you're going too fast because you don't feel good for one reason or the other. Could be headaches, could be nausea, palpitations, any number of things.
Anxiety. I think anxiety is a really common reaction when people are detoxing too fast. Isn't that interesting? I've seen depression too, but mostly anxiety. And maybe that goes with the palpitations.
Yeah. And I kind of say it's like Goldilocks. Like, you don't want to just like throw it all out. You just want to find your edge. And occasionally you're going to go a little too far, and then you'll have to back off. But it's not the end of the world, because you're finding that edge for you. And like I said to my client earlier, like 1 capsule a day was beyond her edge. Whereas like I can easily take 6 capsules a day of a binder No
Right.
problem. I won't even notice. So don't even worry about the amount, because your body is doing what it can do, and it may be quite a bit. She may be detoxifying just as fast as me at this,
Yep.
So yeah, just
Absolutely.
finding where you're at. And I would say, when you mentioned the weight loss, is such a great example, because weight loss is a kind of detox. So you may want to think about not losing weight quite as fast if it's making you feel sick. I had one person on the cleanse years ago, and he had been through cancer treatment, obviously, like a lot of toxic medications, and they were in his system. So he was losing weight incredibly quickly because the body wanted to get rid of this stuff, but not feeling so great, feeling inflamed
Right.
and stuff. So I had to have him back off.
Yep. That's exactly right. So that's the good thing, is that you, especially when you're doing natural and lifestyle things, is you can just back off a little and give yourself a chance to catch up.
Yeah.
So what I love is that Bridget's put together a 5-day detox guide, and it's completely free. Again, you just go to evolvingageless.com, and in our show notes, we have access to everything. So there's a link to Bridget's site. There's a link to her 5-day detox guide. And also she has a detox store as well. And so the link to that store is right there on there. So, purchasing things like binders or brushes, and I know let's talk about travel too, because you had some really interesting perspective on travel that I loved.
Oh yeah, so a couple little things I found is using a silver nasal spray to just, so where does the virus first land, right? In your nose and your throat mostly. So a nasal spray kills some potential things in your nose, and then we have a little herbal throat spray. And they're so easy, and kids can use them, and it's just like, you're not even having to bother to take a pill. So that's something that my community has kind of gotten on board about. Earlier, people were more paranoid about COVID. Now they're chilling out. I think come fall, people are going to be freaking out again a little bit.
Your idea too of like changing your clothes and showering as soon as you get off your flight, if you can.
Yeah, that's an easy one, right? If we think about like detox, part of it is just like removing exposure. So hopefully we're removing some exposure, and then we're just sort of cleansing those first areas of contact. The virus will usually multiply back your throat for 5 days. So thinking of that area. And if you don't have my spray, you could gargle with salt water. There's other things you could do. Use essential oils. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So if you go to evolvingageless.com, in the show notes, you'll be able to pick up that 5-day detox guide. What I love about what you're doing, Bridget, is you create just things that we have in our household, everyday items to help people detoxify, so that it's not very often a super expensive endeavor that you need, radical support with, but that you also offer those services for people that maybe have a little bit more burden than usual. Because if you find that you are one of these people that reacts to everything, I don't know if you would agree with this, but it seems like you probably don't want to launch off into detoxing yourself. It's always good to talk with someone who is an expert in this area.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do safely that are small, like the dry brushing and lemon water and stuff.
Cilantro, parsley.
Yeah, there's so much. But if you are quite sick and you're wondering what's burdening you, we also offer testing, and that might be a point where you want more of a team around you. Michelle can be part of your team, but like, you need support when you're going through something difficult, no matter what it is in life. So if you're going through a really hard time with your health and you suspect toxins, we have a lot of resources you can check out.
I love it. So thank you so much for sharing all this wisdom today in the area of detoxification. I think the more we recognize that this is a basic bodily function that goes on every minute of every hour of every day, and it's not so much a huge endeavor that you have to constantly maintain. But I love all these little tips. Your 5-day guide is brilliant. All these little tips that people can follow up on to just make small changes to enhance the way our body naturally detoxifies. And then the knowledge to know when it's time to talk to a professional. I think that's great. So head on over to evolvingageless.com. In our show notes with this particular show, there are links to everything, links to Bridget, links to the guide, links to the store, whatever you need to know, it's all there for you. So Bridget, thank you so much again for being here and sharing your information.
Thank you. I loved your questions. It was a ton of fun, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Oh, that's great. And as always, I'll be back here next week with a new guest with new insights and expertise to help us make just these small changes that will have a significant impact over time on the way we age. So until next time, keep on living ageless. Bye for now.